Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another expedition log. On today's episode, we close out Phase 3 of the ExLog inside a once effulgent DeBartolo masterclass, which was enfeebled by the wholly inept Kohan retail. I've been pretty busy editing, producing, and researching for all these videos while quarantined in my home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but I will stay productive in my house if you stay home in yours until this thing blows over. And it'll do just that. The world will recover from this, and soon enough our lives will get back to normal. On a positive note, you can now click the shiny blue button next to my subscribe button and join my channel as an elite explorer to get exclusive YouTube live chat emoji and 6 street cred icons, which get more badass the longer you remain a member to my channel, along with access to my personal patron saint of ExLog channel and the Dead Malls of Discord server for pre-releases and extra content. So while I'm holed up in captivity inside the Quite Studios Rathskeller producing weekly content, and while you're all forced inside unable to visit malls, stay home and come take a walk with me through the Richmond Town Square Mall. But first, a word from our sponsor to show you that while we have it pretty tough right now, it isn't nearly as bad as being the last man on Earth. I give you, for your consideration, Charlton Heston as the Omega Man. Enjoy.
The last man on Earth always carries an automatic weapon. The last man on Earth is hunting.
There is no phone ringing, damn it!
Fortress.
What day is it anyway? Monday? The hell it is, it's Sunday. Sunday I always dress for dinner. Discovered check. How does that grab you, Caesar?
Because the last man on Earth is not alone.
This is not the place where all the dead were burned.
And step on it.
On November 2nd, 1963, the DeBartolo Corp. announced plans to build a new 70-acre shopping center at the northeast corner of Richmond and Wilson Mills Roads in Richmond Heights, Ohio. At the time, they were in talks with Sears to bring them on as senior anchor. However, Sears was also negotiating with the Great Lakes Mall, which was only 13 miles away and opened in 1961.
Buddy. Here you go.
What's up, Isabella? Looks like you're doing more business than this entire mall. By December 1964, construction had begun on DeBartolo's new mall. Then on May 19, 1966, DeBartolo held the ribbon-cutting and grand opening for the Richmond Mall, with 20 stores, a single-screen 1,650-seat Lowe's cinema, and Sears serving as their senior anchor. There was also a mezzanine level in the center of the mall, serving as a small second-story section of shops. And right in the middle of the mezzanine was a grand fountain and conversation pit. JCPenney would sign their lease on September 22, 1966, and opened as the second senior anchor 2 months later, in November. 2 years after opening, the mall garnered national attention while the incumbent U.S. Vice President Hubert Humphrey was campaigning to be president against former VP Richard Nixon. On October 28, 1968, Humphrey delivered a speech at the Richmond Mall and was in the middle of addressing the long-standing economic growth of the nation when he said, quote, "Look at this magnificent mall. Look at those stores. They are here because of your hard work and democratic prosperity." Close quote. I wouldn't say that this brought traffic to the mall after the campaign, but it certainly didn't hurt business. The mall would do well through the 70s and the 80s, with most notable changes occurring to the cinema. It was twinned in the 70s, and in the 80s, an additional 6-screen cinema was built adjacent to Woolworth's, right next to the Sears. Towards the end of the decade, a new branch for the Cuyahoga County Public Library System opened inside the mall in 1988, and the mall entered the 1990s swinging. In 1993, DeBartolo was rivaled only by the Simon Property Group for the largest real estate mall developer in the country. I discussed the transaction between the two at length in my ExLog on the Chesapeake Square Mall. However, DeBartolo and Simon were both vying to take their companies public to trade their property in bonds, but the capital markets wouldn't have been able to take as much equity as the two would produce. So, in the best interests of the real estate markets, DeBartolo decided to wait on the IPO, and Simon went ahead. Then, after waiting a year for the markets to settle, DeBartolo finally took his company public. The two titans would coexist for 2 years, and in 1996, Melvin and Herbert Simon would merge with the DeBartolo Realty Corp.
Save more at Woolworth right now during Dollar Day. Just $1 for a 2-pound bag of jelly candies or a pack of 4 inside frosted GE light bulb. Only $1 buys toothpaste, lotion, cleaning supplies, and more. Get 2 foam pillows for just $5, and 2 Easy Care polyester blankets for just $7. Save on men's toothbowls, 6 pair, only $5. Take your choice of records and tapes, 2 for $5. Save on Dollar Day super values store-wide at Woolworth now.
The following year, the mall was sitting at a 40% vacancy rate, and Woolworths closed 400 dime stores, including the one at Richmond Mall. Then on September 11th, 1997, it was announced that Simon DeBartolo would be commencing renovations at the mall, where they would replace the 2-screen cinema with a new Barnes & Noble and build a 165,000 square foot Kaufmann's as the third senior anchor. Kaufmann's had decided to shutter their Euclid Square Mall location and to relocate to Richmond Mall, which I'm afraid would prove to be the beginning of the end for Euclid Square. Make sure to also watch ExLog 50, which covers the history of the Euclid Square Mall, along with interviews from the awesome people that tried so hard to keep it alive. I filmed that mall on its last night standing, and it's a great episode, so make sure to check it out. It's really hard for me to not think about Petal the elephant from the Burlington Center Mall in New Jersey when I see this statue. Make sure you go watch ExLog 40, which was the premiere for Phase 3 of the ExLog. It's a great episode. Simon DeBartolo also planned renovations to the Richmond Mall Sears and JCPenney, and were to build a brand new Sony Cineplex movie theater. Among the renovations and the new developments, they would also bring a new food court with 500 seats to replace the vacant and defunct Woolworths, and some aesthetic renovations to the mall, including new entrances, which is the entrance that you saw when I first came in. New skylights would accompany the existing clerestory windows in the concourses, but as one of the more unfortunate renovations, they got rid of the awesome fountain and the mezzanine to give a more streamlined and claustrophobic feel to the new Kaufmann's entrance. I really don't dig those changes. Simon DeBartolo filed for a mechanic's notice of commencement in November, and by December of 1997, construction was underway on the massive renovation project. According to Simon's 1998 annual investor report, they were halfway through the renovations and had already spent $57 million. While the $70 million was just a projection on these renovations, I believe it may have cost more than this. Overall, in 1996, Simon spent $86 million renovations. In 97, they spent $197 million, and in 1998, they spent a total of $250 million in renovations across their properties. In 1998, they owned 242 retail properties, and 43% of their entire budget for renovations went to only the Richmond Mall. The mall reopened as the Richmond Town Square in September of 1999 to great fanfare, and with the added retail space of the Kaufmans and another 25,000 of inline space, the gross leasable space came in at 1,017,000 square feet. But I would be remiss if I didn't show you what the mezzanine used to look like. So I'd like to show you a couple of photos of the mezzanine, which showcases the fountain in the middle as well. If you ask me, I think the way it looked before was way more aesthetically pleasing than the way it looks now. And while it was laudable that Simon pumped so much money into this place, I wish they had kept the mezzanine and the fountain. Now coming back to my footage, you can see where the mezzanine used to be, with the fake windows that were installed where those storefronts used to be. Again, I don't dig those changes. The mall would not fare well moving into the new millennium. In 2000, the occupancy had fallen to a grim 17%, with just the 3 anchors and a handful of inline stores driving traffic. And by 2005, May department stores who owned the Kaufmans, they were purchased by Federated Department Stores for $11 billion. As these two companies merged, all the Kaufmans nameplates and stores were converted to Macy's by September 9th, 2006. So the senior anchor lineup at Richmond Town Square was Sears, JCPenney, and Macy's. But the inline tenancy was still struggling, including the loss of Barnes & Noble in the mid-aughts. By 2012, as the only ray of sunshine for the mall, Planet Fitness replaced the long-vacant Barnes & Noble. But if you remember from my last ExLog, a Planet Fitness opened recently at the Tiffin Mall out west in Ohio. Take the next facts that I spit at you as a premonition. Simon knew that the mall wasn't to be included in its portfolio anymore, as the sales per square foot were miserable and the tenancy was abysmal. So by 2015, Simon moved the mall away from its main holding company over to its subsidiary, Washington Prime, known as WP Glimcher. Shortly after the mall's shift in Simon's portfolio, the Macy's closed its doors. I have no idea what in the F this thing is. It's given me nightmares ever since I filmed this place. If you know what this abomination is, let me know down in the comments. On April 3rd, 2016, WP Glimcher, the offshoot of Simon, had classified Richmond Town Square as a non-core property, as it was only one of 7 of their properties that, when their revenue was combined, only produced just 4% of the company's operating income. Up the street, though, Simon's Great Lakes Mall, which nearly canceled the construction of this awesome Richmond Heights Sears. Great Lakes was among Simon's 36 Tier 1 properties, resting squarely as a darling, profitable mall. So it was time to dump the Richmond Town Square. There's nothing more charming or inviting about a mall than leaky ceilings causing puddles all over the floor. Frankly, as somebody who seeks out dead malls to film them, this is the kind of stuff I'm looking for. But it's not a good look. Later that year in 2016, WP Glimcher put the incredibly troubled property up for sale. And guess who came in swinging with a low ball offer? After Simon put nearly $100 million of renovations into the mall, Kohan, those scumbags, purchased the Richmond Town Square for a measly $7.25 million from WP Glimcher. And if you know anything about Kohan, and if you've watched any of my ExLogs that covered their properties, you can guess what happens next. Sears and JCPenney, just months apart, announced that their stores would be closing at the Richmond Town Square in the spring of 2017. In March, Sears started liquidating, and in April, JCPenney started liquidating. And typical with most liquidations, less than a half year later, both were shuttered. In 2018, Deal Point Merrill of Woodland Hills, California purchased the empty Macy's for $2 million. They planned to convert the space into a CubeSmart self-storage facility, which came to fruition. And by October of 2019, the new storage facility was opened in the former Macy's space. But Deal Point has loftier goals in mind for the property in its entirety. First, they announced that they would be demolishing the former Sears building and constructing a 362-unit apartment dwelling across 23.5 acres, which would cost a projected $90 million and would retain most of the ailing mall. But shortly after the self-storage space opened, they ramped these plans up and to demolish the entire mall over time, and to create a 700-dwelling living complex with diverse retail options across 65 acres, which would ultimately cost them around $195 million. How is this possible? Well, as it turns out, Deal Point made a deal with Kohan, and Deal Point has money in escrow to purchase the mall from Kohan, which is a deal they agreed to in early 2019, and the deal is set to be completed by the first quarter of 2021. But imagine that. Kohan bought a mall for $7.25 million. And staring down the barrel of a nearly $250 million redevelopment, those scumbags, they really know how to destroy a mall for profit. It makes me glad that I filmed this video, along with the rest of the other 54 episodes that I've produced, and the other 30 or 40 or so videos that I have in the pocket ready to edit. These greasy developers are destroying malls, almost seemingly with planned obsolescence and precision. But you can trust that if I can get to the mall, I will preserve its memory for future generations, along with the receipts and the paper trail to show how much of a scumbag greaseball these developers really are. Because of the impending deal between Deal Point and Kohan, the Richmond Town Square will most assuredly get demolished in its entirety. You can't lose with a redevelopment plan of nearly 1,000 apartment units and brand new close-by retail. Look at the old Echelon Mall, now known as Voorhees Town Center in New Jersey, early on in my ExLog series. They tried demolishing part of the mall to create a small amount of apartments and a boring strip of retail spots, and the mall still failed. Perhaps Deal Point took this as an example, but I doubt it. These malls dying across the country are because of overmalling, competition between them, and a growing need for more diverse and expedient delivery options for non-essential goods. The ongoing COVID-19 crisis is bringing out the skeletons in the United States mall market, and as we're all locked up in our homes, we can still get everything we need. We can get clothes, electronics, media, groceries, and we can even teach cello lessons and give medical diagnoses remotely over the internet. This new coronavirus strain will change the world and show that maybe those workers in the grocery store making minimum wage should be making more. We need them. Maybe those line cooks at restaurants that can deliver to us should be paid more. People that keep us alive and fed and protected and who keep us well should be paid more. The world will be different after this crisis, and dead malls are just the beginning. As for people like me who explore for your entertainment, I think I'll have a very busy few years ahead of me exploring the places that shops like Kohan decided should be killed for profit. But I'll be there to document the process and to get the receipts to show what really happened. Thank you all for an awesome third phase in the ExLog, and especially thank you to all my patrons and those that are now joined up and members of my channel. You are the elite explorers of Quite Studios, and you'll all be getting some exclusive content and access to me 24/7 in the exclusive Patron Saint of ExLog channel in the Dead Malls of Discord server. Speaking of which, thanks to DMod, all of whom you need to be subscribed to, along with subbing and following to all of my social media. Links to the absurd amount of content DMod and myself have to offer are in my description below. I appreciate the viewership as we pass 4 million views and over 35,000 subscribers, and I look forward to the future with you all. I may have a few things in store starting next Friday as an entr'acte between Phase 3 and 4. Or I might just come out swinging with Phase 4, I'm not sure yet. You'll have to subscribe, ring the bell, and stay tuned to find out. Until then, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all again, and I'll see you on the next expedition. Stay home with me for now, and stay safe. Take care, and have a fantastic day.